Hello there and welcome. This is Mikhail or Michael speaking. As always, at first, I want to say thank you all who decided to support me financially on Patreon. And now we will move to the situation on the front line. We will start with Bakhmut. In the last video, I've mentioned a situation between Wagner leader Prigozhin and Ministry of Defense and their leader Shoigu. And there is an interesting news, and I will translate to you his quote. Basically, it goes right here. Tonight we received combat order. We are promised to be given ammunition and weapons as much as we need to continue further actions. They swear to us that everything that is necessary will be placed on the flanks so that the enemy does not cut us off. We are given Surovikin as a person who will make decisions in a framework of interaction with Ministry of Defense. If you don't know who Surovikin is, basically he is a well-respected guy within Russian army. He is adored by Russian people as well. If the conflict between Prigozhin and Shoigu was real, perhaps using Surovikin as a middleman is a sort of a way of making a peace, at least for the time of Battle of Bakhmut. That also came with the reports that Wagnerites had received sufficient ammunition and artillery shells, and that resulted in a first success within few days. It happened here along the Vyzvoliteli of Donbass street. As you can see, that street leads to a post office and Olympic school for which Russians were fighting for a long time. And as a result of continuous fighting, Russians were able to achieve relative success here along Peremogi Street, Irny Levchenko Street, and as some reports suggest, Russians were also able to gain control over Tulbukhina Street here. So perhaps they are controlling more than this. That means now they are attacking towards Post Office and Olympic School from two directions. While we're here near Kharomova and 00506 highway, it is safe to say that heavy fighting continues here along the entire front line. Russians are not willing to give up on those objectives, and Ukrainians are not willing to give them to Russians. So heaviest fighting continues here within this sector. Now to the Citadel sector, or high-raised building sector. There is a video of Ukrainian forces blowing up a building somewhere here within this area. Usually, Ukrainians blowing up buildings is an indication that soon Russians will move into that area, and they are blowing these buildings neither when Russians are inside to trap them and kill them, or when they don't want to give Russians too much of an advantage by getting control over that building. Anyway, this is the video. It's interesting that there is a second explosion that is following the first one. I wonder what was that. But anyway, yeah, usually this kind of actions are in line with Russian advancements. So perhaps we might see Russians gaining a foothold somewhere here within this area. If, of course, the video suggests the right geolocation. Obviously, there are still fighting happening here in between Tchaikovskого and Korsunskova Street. Situation here remains somewhat difficult. It would seem that there are a lot of back and forth. As you can see here, Russians having a bridgehead that is inconvenient for Russians. They are open to not only frontal assaults, but also assaults from the flank. And Ukrainians can advance within Tchaikovskого Street and strike to the rear. Here Russian positions are vulnerable, and this is where the heaviest fighting actually happens in this whole Samolyot district area. While we are still in Bakhmut, I will show you a video of destruction within the city. So as you can see, the entire sector here is on fire. Smoke is so thick you can barely find out what's going on. This is why sometimes it's hard to geolocate within Bakhmut, because artillery shells had basically rearranged streets and buildings within the city. I also have interesting news here for you. It is being reported that Wagnerites will not be leaving Bakhmut and replaced by Chechen soldiers. In fact, Chechen soldiers will join Wagner and finish off Bakhmut as fast as possible. And we already see a change happening here, for example. Not only Wagnerites were supplied with everything they need, they were also reinforced with more troops. And there are even some news that some of the LNR and DPR forces has been transferred here to fight alongside Wagnerites, Chechen soldiers, and regular Russian army. It would seem that Russians want to wrap up the story of Bakhmut, perhaps before or in 9th of May, at least before 10th of May, when Prigozhin promised to withdraw from Bakhmut. Now, I've received some interesting vibes from some people. They think that with the fall of Bakhmut, the war would be over. At least that's how I feel they think. Unfortunately, no. With the fall of Bakhmut, nothing would change. Ukrainian army is still intact, and Russian is as well. There will still be hard fighting for Ivanivsky and for overall conglomeration of Chasiv Yar. And after Chasiv Yar, there is a pretty big city of Konstantinivka. And as you can see here, the E40 highway leads to Slavyansk and Kramatorsk, and those cities will be hard to take as well. So I'm sure it would take at least a year for Russians to take this area right here. So war will not be over with Bakhmut. In fact, I'm sure we are about to enter the most active phase of that war. Now, after that, we go here, near Mykolaiivka and a small village of Sako-Ivanseti. It has been reported that as a result of positional fighting, Ukrainians were able to gain a foothold here to the east of this road. There is a video of a trench fight for that road. Unfortunately, I cannot show you it, but you are free to visit my newly created Telegram channel where I posted that video. In any way, this is not an indication of a Ukrainian counterattack or offensive within this area. This was a result of positional fighting that usually takes place along the entire front line here from Bilogorovka to Vasikivka. Then we have an interesting situation in Vuhledar. It is unclear what's happening, but it would seem that Ukrainians had launched more attacks here in the direction of Pavlivka and in the direction of Mikilske. The result of those attacks is unclear. There are even reports that Ukrainians are operating somewhere here in this area to the other side of this canal. However, those reports are scarce. What is safe to say is that both Ukrainians and Russians here had intensified their attacks. Russians are not only defending but also counter-attacking Ukrainians, not allowing them to gain any footholds within this area. Simultaneously with that, Russians are advancing here to the mines in attempt to cut off this road. So we see how Vuhledar front had become extremely active in the last few days, and we might see some territorial changes here fairly soon. So this is the end of the video. I hope I kept it short. If you liked it, please consider supporting me by hitting that like button, subscribing and commenting, as well as pushing that notification bell. It will inform you immediately when my video is posted. If you want to support me financially directly, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It would help me achieve more financial stability. Also, again, join my Telegram channel where I will be posting interesting videos of Russo-Ukrainian war. As always, humanity calls me to condemn all violence against human beings. Have a good day, and always remember, Russia will be free.